So Hagerty, you know the guys, they do the insurance and the valuations for the classic car market. They're pretty good at keeping their finger on the pulse of the used car market and values and stuff like that. So they've issued their third quarter report for 2024, and there are about 5 cars that they've actually highlighted that have actually seen increases in value in 2024. Despite the fact that it's actually been a difficult year. In fact, they say that the market is showing obvious signs of cooling, and the Hagerty market rating has been settling back to pre-pandemic levels. Post-pandemic, we did see an increase in used car values. But there are some bright spots, like they're saying, but the gains are becoming more nuanced. Pickier buyers are willing to pay more for rare and exceptional examples of specific cars and certain cars. And so in this latest quarterly update, where they've looked back at the last 3 months, they have highlighted, like I said, these cars that they have done surprisingly well, and you'll be surprised when I tell you what cars they are. Now, I should just say that this is Hagerty.com, so this is a focus on the US market. Obviously, you know, there's always a global impact on these valuations, or the fact is that the classic car market is a little bit more international. But nonetheless, I think it will be very interesting both to US viewers and UK viewers, and of course everybody around the world that's interested in classic cars. So let's get into these. You will find these quite interesting.
A brown car guy. Brown car guy.
So first up, and this one's a big surprise to me, the 1986 to 1993 Mercedes-Benz 300D E300 diesel. Wowzers, we're talking diesel mid-range Mercedes saloon, right? We're not talking an AMG, we're not talking the performance versions, we're not talking anything like that. We're just talking the regular W124 series Mercedes that would just plug the motorways, often as taxis, to be honest, in Europe and stuff like that. But these have, get this, they have seen an average increase of 68% in market value. What is going on? This is actually quite extraordinary. So what they're saying is that over the summer, a handful of low-mile oil-burning W122 diesel 124s hit the market and brought these big numbers, including there was a 6-figure result, must have been an auction I guess, for an 8,400 mile example of one of these cars. Now first of all, I find that really strange, because if you have a diesel car, how come you've only done less than 10? What is there even the point of getting a diesel car if you're not going to do high miles on it? But anyway, for some reason, there are these models that exist which are diesel, which have hardly done any miles. I mean, 8,400 miles on a Mercedes diesel of that vintage is literally like not even run in properly, let's be honest. So obviously, if you know Concourse, if you know Hagerty values, they do 4 different versions. So it goes right up to number 1, which is Concourse. You get number 2, which is Excellent, which is a car that could win awards but can be used as well. And then you get number 3, which is a good car, and then you get number 4, which is sort of ratty cars that are just about surviving sort of thing. So this one, they saw that there was actually quite a big gap between the Concourse value and the Excellent value. And of course, if you're finding cars are 8,400 miles, basically time capsule original cars, then they are going to command the high prices. So they were saying that a perfect example may be worth in the range of $80,000. $80,000 for a late 1980s Mercedes middle range diesel saloon. That is actually quite astonishing. The cars are expected, like I said, they actually say in this article, the cars are only considered to be broken in at around 150,000 miles. But what's happening is that neglected example in condition 4, so the sort of, you know, the ratty condition, they haven't seen their prices increase, and they actually slid down in value. So what's happening here is that although you may be thinking, oh, well, I hope those cars don't get too expensive because that's something that I want to just buy and use if I can still find it in some markets. I mean, you know, they are solid runners. Don't be worried. The values aren't going to shoot up of all the ones. The values are only shooting up of the really sort of the top condition, the 1 and 2 conditions, the concourse and the excellent ones. And even there's a huge gap between them. So it's only the very rare and low mileage example cars of those that are actually shooting up in values. If you've got one of those, look, don't put any miles on it, look after it, and put it out for auction soon. But if you've got one that you just use and it's a high miler, just keep using it. The next one is a car that I owned. The 1988 to 1991 Honda CRX Si, as they call it in America. Now, interestingly, in America, now correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that in America, so I actually did have an 88 model, and the 88 model didn't have the VTEC engine, because that VTEC engine, I think, came, was it 1990 or 91? It came later. In America, didn't get that at all. So it's probably got the same engine that I had in mind, which was more than enough, you know. I mean, these were tiny, lightweight cars, and they were just fun little pocket rockets. So it says, according to the article, CRX helped Honda cement its reputation for delivering small, spunky, compact cars for the masses that punched above their weight class and sold at competitive prices. Absolutely true. I mean, it was such a fun little car. Really, honestly, it's in my top 3 cars that I've owned that I miss. You know, definitely, it's in that list. And so these cars, these beloved cars amongst Honda fans in particular. So over the summer, a number of stock examples hit the market, all trading for strong prices. Driver quality cars have been out of the realm of truly cheap for a while, so they actually are getting a bit more valuable. So that's the number 3, the good condition cars. They have crept up out of the sub 10K, this is $10,000 range, and have been trading closer to $12,000. But if you find an excellent condition car, so this is not quite concourse, but one below that, $30,000. Oh my, I think I sold mine back in the day. I think I must have bought it for a couple of grand and probably sold it for a couple of grand, £1,000 that is. But $30,000 for a perfect example. And to be fair, like, you can't find unmolested, original, you know, untouched versions of those cars. They're extremely rare because they're all modified and lowered and lights and more power and all the rest of it. There's always stuff that's been done to them. So it is actually quite rare to find one that's completely original and untouched. So if you do find one like that, we're talking more than $30,000. Now, it's an interesting thing here is that this is obviously, like I said, the US market. Looking in the UK, Hagerty didn't even have it on its valuation list here. So the latest one they had was the Generation 1. So they had the Generation 1 car, and they were talking at, in the UK, concourse version of that, £15,500. Excellent version, £11,300. And so that's the one before. So that's the one that didn't have the window in the tailgate, which is the Mark II, had the window in the tailgate. Now, looking online, the reason that that could be the case that in the UK they don't have valuations for those ones, although having said that, the Mark I is almost impossible to find as well, but Mark II also is getting increasingly hard to find, and I only found one good one for sale. It was on Auto Trader, and it was priced out for $10,450. It's a 1990 example. It's got 142,000 miles. It looks really nice, but the interior needs a bit of work. The exterior looks okay, and even the wheels aren't original. But even that is up for £10,500. So definitely, there's no question that the CRX continues to rocket in value, just like the pocket rocket it always was. Hey, are you enjoying this video? Then make sure you hit the like button. It's very important. Plus, comment, share, and make sure you're subscribing. Now, the next one on this is just moves out of the 80s and into the early 90s. This is the 1991 to 1997 Toyota Land Cruiser FJ80 series Land Cruiser. It's a car that I actually reviewed, one of the first cars I reviewed way back when I started my career in Saudi Arabia. It's an absolute icon of the region, and a friend of mine just sold his in he actually bought one, he restored it. I think he put 70,000 kilometers on it in 3 years over in Dubai, and he just recently sold it, and he'd probably be wishing he hadn't sold it, because the average increase in prices on these is 19% according to Hagerty. So the Land Cruisers, they've always had a cult following, especially the 80 series. It's the last of the lineage of Land Cruiser that were originally formulated with solid axles and an inline 6-cylinder engine. It's got a set of triple locking differentials. It's crazy capable, as we all know. And they say it was the most well-rounded and most capable of the original Land Cruisers. And they actually say, this is an interesting statement they make, the 80 series Land Cruiser is to Land Cruisers what the Porsche 993 is to air-cooled Porsches. So I guess what they mean by that is that it was peak Land Cruiser at the time. It was like the ultimate evolution, and then everything after that was just, tweaking it really. And I think that's proven by the fact that, they still are running around, they're still valuable. But what we're talking about here, for the most part, these SUVs accumulated tons of miles. It's not uncommon for clean, maintained examples with hundreds of thousands of miles to still bring close to $20,000 in terms of the purchase price. But we're not seeing most of the market movement in this segment. What they're seeing is much like the thing with the Mercedes, where it's the rare and low mileage cars, the really excellent examples that are doing really well. Buyers are shelling out good money to the tune of $50,000 and up for those. An FJ80 in truly like new condition, we're looking at 6-figure prices. In fact, they're talking about a recent transaction for a Land Cruiser with 4,200 miles on it, sold for $170,000. So that is absolutely extraordinary. But there's plenty of those still running around. There's still plenty available. I suppose if you could restore one, you could get it up to maybe excellent condition. Concourse would have to be original, but what they're really looking for is low mileage original cars. So if anybody's got one that they forgot about in the back of the Majlis or something, now's the time to get it out and give it a wipe down, because it could be worth a fair bit of money. This one is another big surprise for me. The 1984 to 1988 Pontiac Fiero. Fiero? What did you use to pronounce it? Fiero. I always called it Fiero. 17% up, this one. And it's weird this, because really it was never really taken seriously, I don't think, and it just ended up spending a life as a donor car for kit cars really, because then it was a cheap car, mid-engined, and people thought, all right, we'll just take the body off and then turn it into something else. And that's kind of what they became. They were like Ferrari kits and stuff like that you could build on Pontiac Fieros. But now you might want to keep them original if you can find one, because apparently they are worth something. Like I said, they came out around the time of the Fiat X19, so they were like the mid-engine, so the sort of America's rival to the Fiat X19. They were before the Toyota MR2. The Toyota MR2 did it obviously so much better. Solid, reliable, etc. The only trouble with the Fiero, whatever you want to call it, it looked good, it had the mid-engine, but it didn't have enough of a potent engine. Now, they did address that later on with the GT car that had a V6 engine. But according to what they say here, it was too little too late. Plus, it says they had a reputation for hucking rods and catching fire. So this was another issue with them. GM did solve the issue, but the stigma stuck, as these things often do. So it remains a cheap enthusiast car, as they say, but they have seen a hike in value. And even from last year, so they have seen a gain of 25 to 38% just in the course of the last 12 months. So a pristine Fiero SE a year ago, $11,000. Today, $15,000. So a gain of $4,000. So that is actually not bad at all. That's actually pretty good. So there you go. So maybe the stigma is coming off those cars, and maybe they are suddenly becoming collectible. So if you've got a good one of those and you were thinking maybe to convert it into a fake Ferrari or something, don't. Leave it as it is, because it could be worth more. And finally, we're going to move to what is basically the world's best-selling roadster, which is, of course, the Mazda Miata, as they call it in America, or MX-5 as we call it in the rest of the world. So the 1990 to 97 one, the original one, these are now becoming classics. They are. I mean, they're 30 years old, right? They've seen an increase of 16%. And they call the NA generation ones. And what they're saying is that you used to be able to pick up a pristine example for about $10,000 about a decade ago, but the same car will run you now as much as the price of a brand new 2024 example. So that's quite extraordinary. The real rise in value came to truly perfect condition examples. So there's a number one, the Concourse ones. They got up to $38,700. $38,700. So basically low mileage, original, well-kept examples, they are really rocketing at the moment. But I guess that even two condition cars, number two, which is the excellent condition cars, they're also doing well as well. The cars are still attainable. Over here, I mean, they're actually still quite affordable, those cars, and you can pick them up for a few grand, but they aren't like pristine examples, but they are examples that you can still have a lot of fun in. Talking of fun, one car that they have missed off this, which of course I think is always going up in value, and it certainly has gone up in value, is of course the car that I'm currently selling, the BCG BMW E30, the 1989 BMW 325i SE. Just looking at that out of interest on the UK Hagerty thing, and the Concourse edition of those, they're talking about £40,000, £40,200 Concourse edition of E30s now. And I'm looking exactly at a 1989 325i, which is the one that I've got. That, to be honest, I'm pretty sure that the last time I checked that was around 20, 25, something like that. But now the excellent condition cars are up at 21,200 for those. Good is 13,900 and fair is 8,800. And my car is probably closer to, between good and excellent, I would say probably closer to excellent. Of course, if you watch the video and if you've seen the stuff that I've been talking about with the car, you'll know that there's a major job that needs doing on that car. So I guess at the moment it's not quite in the excellent category, but I reckon if that was done, then that car is worth closer to 20 grand now. So that definitely is another good thing, certainly from my point of view anyway. So there you go. Let me know what cars you think have been going up in value over the last 12 months or so. Mention them in the comments and maybe we'll make another video and cover those. Hi guys, I've been writing. This is my first book, a novel, an all-out action thriller, and this one is a collection of 13 stories I've written over the course of 2 decades. The Ulysses Files and The Quantum Races by BC Guy are out now on Amazon.com. Shout out time, guys. Thank you so much. Hey, if you enjoy my content, why not get involved? Buy me a coffee. You can do that at either of these links. Or if you're watching on YouTube, buy me a thanks or take out a membership. It all helps. It really does.